Good afternoon. Here's an update from St. Paul UCC, actually from Pastor Mike's home. St. Paul UCC in Waterloo, an update for Friday, March 20th. A reminder that we will be having worship service. We will not be gathering for worship, but we will still have worship together for those who can tune in online or actually check in online at any point during the day. The worship service will be loaded. It is up there now, but it will be debuted at 8 a.m. on this Sunday, March 22nd, on YouTube. And here is our address for YouTube: St. Paul UCC Waterloo IL. No punctuation in there, but there are spaces. So STPAUL UCC Waterloo IL. So go to YouTube, put that in the search box. You will come up to our channel on YouTube, and you can subscribe, or you can just check in when something is loaded up there. The video was too long to load up to Facebook, but I will have the individual videos. There are 6 videos put together to make up our worship service for this Sunday. They're about 25 minutes long, all told, and so that will be on YouTube. I will load up each video individually on Facebook, on the church's Facebook page, and on my Facebook page this Sunday morning as well. If you want to see them all put together in hopefully a cohesive worship service, go to YouTube. If you go to Facebook, you'll see them individually, and you can look at them individually. For today, I'd like to share with you something we were doing in Bible study last Wednesday, a week ago Wednesday now. I introduced Cinquan poetry, Cinquain poetry, to the group, and it forces us to choose words carefully. It's a very structured form of poetry. Don't hit stop on your button yet. Just give me a second, because this is a lot of fun too, and it's fun with kids because you have to kind of think of the right words, and you have to try different words in the program kind of thing. So it's a lot of fun. A Cinquan poem is a 5-line poem, and it is made up of, it starts with one word on the top line, and that has to be a noun, and then it has 2 words on the next line, and they have to be adjectives, descriptive words. And then on the 3rd line, there's 3 words, and they have to be participles, words ending in ing, like running, walking, fasting, something like that. And then on the 4th line, a phrase, and it doesn't have to stick to 4 words, but a descriptive phrase. Not too long, and it can be a sentence fragment. It doesn't have to be a whole sentence either. And then the last line, it comes back to 1 word, and that is a summary word or a synonym for the title. So here's some examples: puppy, ornery, naughty, growling, I can't read that, jumping, chewing, a playful bundle of trouble, boxer. Here's another one for someone who likes to walk in the woods and be a little poetic: tree, white, tall, reaching, bending, fluttering, leaves and twigs in the wind, aspen. Now, I used this a long time ago, back when I was in seminary. I was chaplain at retirement community, and I used this with both the residents, and I used this with kind of a grief support group with the nurses and the staff. A lot of unmet grief needs in staff of nursing homes and hospitals, because they can, and especially in nursing homes, staff may have someone for a year, 2 years, 3 years in a nursing home and have to work the day of the funeral or something like that. And that kind of grief just doesn't seem to get addressed, except by the most forward-thinking nursing homes that really take care of their staff. But there's activities directors and social workers and nurses and aides especially that are really left to their own devices to process their grief. So I worked with the nurses there, and this is some of the ones that they came up with. This is one that came up with. And this was the most hardcore, old, battle-tested nurse you could imagine. And she wanted nothing to do with this poetry, and she wanted nothing to do with this grief work, but somebody made her do it or something. And this is what she said. And look at: nurse, rushed, efficient, holding, hearing, loving, present when others turn away, sacrifice. This is a nurse who would never let someone die alone. If the family couldn't make it or the family just wouldn't make it back, she would clock out after her shift if the person was near death, and she would sit there and hold their hand, sing to them, make sure music was playing for them. I saw that happen so many times. It's like as soon as she clocked out, that hardened, nothing but business kind of nurse exterior gave way to someone who would be present with someone in their dying process. And so this is what she wrote, that nurse, rushed, efficient, holding, hearing, loving, present when others turn away, sacrifice. I wonder tonight if you have children who are home from school and you're stuck at home from work, if you might want to do a synchron about a teacher or about somebody down the street or about one another. You might want to do one about your kids now and do another one in 5 weeks and see how they've changed. Here is one that a resident did. Now, this man was a retired chief with a major metropolitan fire department. When he was about 30, he was in a burning building with one of his buddies, firefighters on each side of him. The roof collapsed. Both the man on the right and the man on his left both died, and he survived. And he had 55 years later, he was still asking himself why, and he was still asking himself and asking me, had he lived out the purpose in his life with his he was convinced God had saved him for a purpose. He really focused his life after that happened. And he was still trying to figure out if he had lived a life worthy of being spared at that moment. This is his Singwan. Youth, strong, vital, running, climbing, exploring, spending all my days with friends, gone. He wrote another Singwan in our little Bible study group and our little conversation group. And he had a daughter and son-in-law who lived up in Wisconsin. And they would bring him cheese curds from a lot of local bars in Wisconsin and places, it's a cheesehead. So they have cheese curds out on the bars, and he loved them. He just absolutely loved cheese curds. So they would bring him cheese curds because they weren't on his diet. He shouldn't have been eating them, and his wife wouldn't buy them for him locally. So his daughter and son-in-law would bring them, and this is what the Singwan he wrote about curds. He had to show me, and then he kept this on his refrigerator so his daughter would see it. Curds, cheesy, smooth, tasting, melting, oozing, a daughter's gift of memory, love. Look at that phrase, a daughter's gift of memory, and think of a hardened old fire chief coming up with that phrase. That was a gift. That was just wonderful for him to offer that to me and to everyone else, all of the other elderly senior people that were in that Bible study group. Here's one of the volunteers that sat in on the nurses' sessions. Young girl, she was in high school still, and she was volunteering for a class. And here she had, volunteer, eager, scared, sharing, reading, serving, in awe of these people's lives, small. So, you know the rules. A noun, kind of a title for the poem, 2 words that are adjectives that are descriptive, 3 words that are action words, participles, ending in ing for the most part, and then a phrase, and then a summary word at the end. 5 lines with more on each one. Now, next week, I will share with you how you can use a Singwan poetry as a spiritual discipline and also as a way to help with Bible study. It really focuses, well, I won't get into it. That's for next week. For this week, I have one little clue for you, or a little teaser for the sermon on Sunday. I want to show you something. This is an old treadle sewing machine. There's actually a working sewing machine in here. You can see it's been refinished. I did the refinishing years ago. This was my great-grandmother's sewing machine, and then it ended up being my dad's sewing machine. And you can see the intricate carving on the sides of the drawers. And it's an old Bartlett, not a Singer, but a Bartlett. So there's, the treadle still works. It all still works if we actually had a leather strap for that. But I wanted to share that with you and ask you, what does an old treadle sewing machine have to do with Psalm 46? I'll answer that on Sunday morning. It'll be uploaded at 8 o'clock on St. Paul, UCC, Waterloo, IL, on Facebook. On YouTube and on Facebook. We'll get it on Facebook, but it'll be on YouTube. Until then, God bless, God keep you, and may a Singquan give you something to do with your loved ones or by yourself. Choose the right words. Words are vastly important. We use words too carelessly these days with Twitter and Facebook and so many things, and this is a good way to learn how to choose words wisely. God bless.